What is going on YouTube and Spotify? This is the Just BSN podcast. Welcome back. We had a little bit of a break in between. Have a lot of things going on, right now. So we got to take care of some people, and some things. But hey, we're back today, and obviously we got a lot to talk about. We've talked a lot about the Browns, over the past 18 weeks or so, and now that they're, out of play. We're gonna do a little bit of a change to start off the podcast today, and we're gonna start off with our good old Cavaliers because, my goodness, they're on a tear right now. They are one of the best teams right now in the East and one of the best teams in the league entirely, at least right now, which is how hot they've played. So that's what we're gonna be talking about today. But first of all, Andrew, how are you doing this evening?
Man,
Afternoon.
I am doing pretty well. I mean, we got some football coming up. We got the Super Bowl coming up. I'm excited for that, and
Mhm.
just happy the Ravens lost and the Cavs are on a good roll. So we're cruising through life right now. We're loving it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and yeah, as I've said, and as Drew said, the Cavs are rolling right now.
Yes.
They've won. I mean, they've only lost one game out of their last 13, I think it is, or 14 games
Yeah.
now. And the only one that they did lose was to the Bucks, and that wasn't a very off game, I guess. It wasn't a game that they got blown out for. I think they only lost by like 8. And Dame just had a big game that game, and
Mm-hmm.
it happens. But the Cavs are getting healthier now, and again, they are just on a absolute tear. I cannot say enough about the 180 that they've pulled, but I kind of thought that this would happen, especially when Garland went down and then Mobley went down. Like it, I just knew that, like, okay, these next two or so months, it's gonna be a little rough. People are gonna get a little nervous and start to panic on the Cavs, and it was gonna be up to the coaching, and it was gonna be up to the guys that were left to really step up. And I gotta give big shout outs to guys like Jared Allen, who's playing at an all-star level, who's been snubbed off the uh, all-star team right now. Obviously, Donovan has been playing much better, much more just efficient. He's becoming the main ball handler right now, even over Garland. And I think it's the best course of action right now for this team because Garland's ability to shoot, especially as a standstill shooter, I mean, the dude can knock down shots like nothing. So, like, why not use that to your advantage while, Donovan can really start to make some plays? So this team is really starting to finally, find their niche. They're starting to find their overall identity with some of these new guys, and it's really showing because we are winning games, and it's been fun to watch.
No, it's been amazing to watch. I mean, like you said, we won our last 12 of 13, which has been phenomenal. I think it's the best in the league right now. Winning out of the last, again, like 13 to 15 games, you win 12 of those. Like, these guys are on a tear. We finally got Garland back. Mobley missed out last night due to, again, just recovering from an injury he suffered. He played the game before, but and he had a good game that game too. It's not like
Yeah.
he had a poor game. He had a good game, but I think they're trying to like slowly work him in. So they might like play him, give him a day off, play him, give him a day off, kind of just like ease him back into the lineup, not having to rush him back in because obviously
Yeah.
you need him for the playoffs and you need him for a big playoff push. So it's one, you don't want that guy to go down because you need his physicality, you need his athletic ability, you need him to be 100%. So having Evan Mobley down the stretch is going to be key for this team. But dude, like you said, big kudos to Jared Allen, dude. He upped his physicality from the playoffs last year. He has upped it tenfold. He is now not afraid to body people and get up for a rebound. He's not shying away. The last, oh my god, like few games he's had almost 20 or more boards a game,
Yeah.
and he is starting to finally do what we asked him to do, and that's just be physical in the paint, get up, get those boards. And he's been making shots too. He's been getting into the paint, driving the basketball into the paint, making some great plays in the post, making layups, making dunks. The things you ask him to do,
Yeah.
he is doing. He is now averaging like a double double every game now. He's getting like 18 points and like 13 rebounds is like his average over the last like 7 to 8 games. So he is really doing what you've been needing him to do. And like you said, him and Donovan have been cooking since the absence of Darius Garland and Evan Mobley. And I do like what you just said about having Donovan Mitchell be the primary ball carrier, having him bring the ball up the court, allowing Darius Garland to be the spot up shooter that he is, and allowing him to do that, and not having trying to do too much with the basketball. Leave that to Donovan because we all know Donovan can handle that workload. He can dribble, shoot off the dribble. He can do all those types of things, get to the paint quickly and as fast as he can, and make quick layups and stuff like that. And you know, even though people said that like Darius Garland didn't have a great game last night, yeah, he had 9 points, but he still was the team leader in assists, tied with
Mm.
Donovan. So again, as Mobley progresses from his injury, you don't need him to be an elite scorer. He's still a good disher of the basketball. He can still get good amount of assists. He can still be productive, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So this is one of those things where you just allow Donovan to handle his business and just allow Garland and Mobley just to slowly come back because Jared Allen and Donovan have got this. They have
Yeah.
for the last almost 2 months, month and a half that Garland and Mobley missed.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been nice too, for the sake of Donovan especially. When we played badly, we would play badly because our offense would be so stagnant and we wouldn't share the
Mm-hmm.
ball, we wouldn't move it around. And I think Donovan sort of either had a conversation with coach or just sort of realized like, hey, I need to do a little bit more with the ball. That doesn't have to be me scoring the ball. Like he doesn't have to drop 40 points every night. I mean, I know he dropped 40 points last night, I believe. I think he dropped 43.
Yeah.
Um, and he's gonna have those nights, and that's Donovan for you. Like he's gonna be there, especially when guys are having trouble scoring the ball. Guys like Garland who only had 9 last night, but he didn't need to score, and um, you're having quality play off the bench. Levert's playing well. Sam Merrill is obviously, he had like what I think three threes last night, and that's all you can ask from him is just knock down a few trades, just keep the court in space. Really, I mean, just keep
Mm-hmm.
spaced out and just be ready to knock down shots in the corner, and like that's the type of play you need. And when this team is able to share the ball productively like that on offense, they are so freaking hard to beat because they're very good on defense. And guys like Isaac Okoro, who's not really a like big time scorer. I mean, sure he can have a good like 20 plus point game sometimes, but for the most part, you don't really ask that out of him. He's just, hey, you're gonna be the guy that's gonna guard the best guy on on anybody's team at any given night, and you're gonna be the one that's there. And they've asked him to do that, and the kid's playing out of his mind on that end as well. And
Yeah.
again, when Jared Allen is not afraid to be physical, man, it is beautiful to watch because I mean, I'm staring at his stats right now for the year. He's averaging about 15 points a game, 10 and a half rebounds a game, almost 3 assists a game too, which is awesome as well. He's shooting 65% from field goal. He's becoming efficient on the field or on the floor, and it's really, really, really helps this team in so many ways. And that's such a big key. And if you can get Mobley to also help space out, if Mobley can start to hit shots now on the outside or even just hit mid rangers, I mean, dude, that's GG. I mean, that is such a difficult team to beat when you have guys that can score the ball like that while also having big bodies to throw in and be able to just play defense the way that they do as a team. And that's the only thing that JB really does well, in my
Yeah.
opinion, especially is he's a very good defensive minded coach. And I think now that everybody's starting to get that free flowing of just like, hey, just play together, trust each other on the offensive side of the ball, and you guys are going to play just fine. Use your defense as a way to get into your offense. And when they're able to do that and do that consistently and not let up, man, it's really hard for teams to stick with them. And I think that's part of the success right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we've saw that during this big run that they've had where, that defense turned into fantastic offense. And that's what they did so well last season, too.
Yep.
We were number one in defense. And up until the playoffs, we were able to turn defense into great scoring offense. It just didn't happen so well in the playoffs against New York, where we kind of went soft and kind of allowed them to run their course against us. And now you're seeing a totally different Cavs team where they're not doing that. They're playing physical and they're staying physical throughout the time being. We talk about Jared Allen, again, the physicality. He's getting those assists on the offensive side of the paint, which he was averaging like 1 assist last year, like all season.
Yeah, something like
He
that.
he had 3 blocks last night against Memphis. Like he's end up staying in the paint, not fouling. He's sitting there getting block after block. He's doing his job. And then shout out to Max Strus too for yesterday. He had a double double, 11 points, 10 rebounds. Again, you know, 4 assists as well, which was insane too. So he had a great performance himself. He's starting to pick up from where he was last year because I know he's been hot and cold throughout the season. He's
Yeah,
either been really good for a few games or he's just been ice cold and he can't hit a shot. I mean, it happens. Like,
yeah,
you're not expecting him to be perfect, but he's being more consistent recently, where he is consistently getting buckets. He's consistently doing his thing, and this team is starting to, again, like you said, something happened where this team is starting to come alive. They're playing together. They're doing things on the defensive side of the ball. They're doing things on the offensive side of the ball. And we were down by like, I think it was like 15 at most yesterday or something.
yeah,
And we came back and we handled business. We almost won by double digits. So again, that's a factor where now when you do go down, this team is not out of it. They could come back. They can make some kind of comeback. So I don't know what JB has done, but we were very critical of him at the beginning of the season, at the start of the year, and I think he's putting us in our place because this team looks so much more fluent. This team looks so much better. This team looks really, really good, and you know I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is, and like I'll hold my hands up and say, yeah, we were wrong, or I was wrong
yeah.
about criticizing him because now he's looking like one of the best coaches in the league, and he's got this team figured out. We were talking earlier, you know, is he gonna ever figure out this team? Is he gonna figure out these players? Like, yeah, last year we were great at defense, but we couldn't fucking score the ball to save our life. And here we are now. We're doing both, and something happened halfway through the year, but this team is now looking like one of the best teams in the NBA and a team that's going to be very hard to stop once the postseason comes along.
Yeah, and I was just starting to think too. I think one of the most fun things about this team is like there's not always one specific dude that will always step up every game.
Yeah,
Obviously, like you're gonna get what you're gonna get out of Donovan and Jared and Mobley
and
and
Garland.
and Garland, but like you can have games where Max Strus will drop 25 points and score,
Mm.
3 or 4 threes. You're gonna have a guy like Sam Merrill who can knock down 6 or 8 threes in a game and just get hot. Niang had a huge game, I think, a few weeks ago, or even it
Yeah,
was last week. I forget. I know it wasn't too long ago. But guys, like that, and even Levert, obviously. I mean, Levert can. I mean, Levert's one of those guys that can literally drop 40 on your head randomly. Just because of how good he is, and like if that's what is asked of him, or if that's what he's feeling that night, he's gonna do it, and he just hasn't had to. But again, it's fun when you have a lot of guys on this team that are finally starting to come together. They're starting to be able to play off each other now. They're learning everybody's tendencies and just the way that they
mm.
play the game, and they're just getting the reps. And now I think they're just playing with so much fun and so much passion now, and it just trickles down from top to bottom, man. And again, when you have guys that can step up at any given day, it makes it so much more fun, and it takes pressure off guys because Donovan doesn't have to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders like a LeBron did when he was here. I mean, when LeBron was here, everybody said, "Hey, you got to get 30 a night pretty much for us to even survive." But it's because that's what he did to himself.
Yeah,
LeBron, and it's not to say LeBron couldn't drop a, triple double where he would have, you know, you know, 12 assists, 13 rebounds and 35 points. But like again, 35 points, the guy has to score 30 a night in order to even give us a chance. Um, where you don't need that out of Donovan every night. You don't, because Jared Allen can have a 28-point night. Mobley can have a 30-point game. Garland can drop a 30 or 40-point game at any given night. Strus is able to knock down shots whenever he can. Sam Merrill, like the list goes on, and it's so fun to know
Mhm.
that now everybody's starting to play with that confidence. It's so fun to know that you can just expect the unexpected with this team. Like it's not just one guy, and I think that's why this team is really starting to play a lot better. It's just because everybody's finally trusting in each other. They've trusted the system. They trust the coaches, and that's what you need. You need both sides to be on the same page in order for this to start really working. We just saw that with the Bucks. The Bucks they're a 30-win team and they fire their coach because they just didn't like how he ran things.
Mhm.
Even though they were winning because they have talent, and talent can win you games. But when guys don't really mesh and they don't agree with the way things are done or ran, or people are starting to butt heads, that's what's going to happen. And that sounds like that's what happened over there. And now they have Doc, who is at least able to manage egos a little better because he's been used to it. But how well he'll do it, I don't know. But it's just nice to see that we aren't having to deal with an ego check like that. Even with a guy like Donovan, who he's got an ego. He's a good player, and he knows that. But we just really don't hear about that stuff. He's still a team guy. You just haven't heard anything negative out of the Cavs for a while, and I am really excited to see what this team is going to look right before the All Star break here. I think they got another like 7 games left before then, um, and then we'll have a little like week off, and then we're back to it. And then once we're back, but we're back to it, we're gonna have some fun games to play. We still got Boston to play more. We got Milwaukee to play more. Phoenix is going to be up there here soon. Like there's going to be some good teams that we can finally play and say, okay, where are we at versus where are they at, and that's going to be a good uh, indication of where the Cavs are, because I think the biggest flaw we had against the Knicks last year is part of what you said was there was just that lack of physicality. The Cavs came in and they knew that they were the better team, and they really were, but they were not the most physical team. And in the playoffs, it is such a different game. The game slows down. Guys tighten up on defense. I mean, you get a chance to play a team 4 to potentially 7 times. You're gonna start to get guys' tendencies, and you're gonna
Mhm.
be able to switch up the way that you're gonna defend a certain guy, or uh, you know just different things that they do on the basketball court. It's a much more mental game, and the Cavs just weren't ready for that. Like the young guys were just not ready for that. It was clearly too big, but so far the guys have seemed to have responded, and even before Evan Mobley got hurt, he was playing very, very physical before he got hurt with Jared Allen. So if he can get back to that as well, I mean, sky really is the limit for this team. So they just got to come out and just keep bringing the heat. Like don't let off on the gas here. Let's really get a good solid placing. Let's get top four in the East. Let's get some home court advantage for a while and
Yep.
run it back. Run it back, because I'm telling you what, the Knicks, they're still about the same team. I mean, Boston is still the best team in the East by far, to me. The Bucks are going to be tough, depending on what happens to Embiid. Uh, you know, the 76ers could still be a pretty good team. Um, you know, there's going to be some challenges in the East still. So the Cavs got to come ready, but so far they've answered it, and I'm also very happy to say that like JB has totally proved me wrong, and I'm fine with that. Like I can die on
Mhm.
that hill, and I'm totally cool with it. Um, I'm okay being proven wrong if it means these Cavs are going to play better. And it just seems like that's where everything's at. And as long as everybody's happy, dude, I'm cool with it, man. I really am. Just keep it rolling. Don't let me down.
Yeah, no, I absolutely hear you. Like we were so ready to die on the hill that JB has got to go, and he really did what he could to mesh his team together. And we're getting close to the halfway point of the season. We got the All Star break coming in 2 weeks, so you have 2 more weeks of basketball, which is like 7 games to go, and you could really cement yourself into a good position because right now, looking at the standings, you are half a game behind New York for third, and you're a game back of Milwaukee for second. And I think you're like 5.5 back of Boston for the first seed. So it's not like you're far off from anybody. You're The furthest away is obviously first place, and that's 5 games, 5.5.
Man.
But you're also a game back of second. Like you could easily jump over Milwaukee, and the only that's Milwaukee and New York are the only two teams standing in your way of that. And unless something happens to New York where they start getting cold, and Milwaukee have a new head coach. They have Doc Rivers who likes to run things a little bit differently. The old head coach. Again, there was nothing seemed to be clicking, and like you said, talent can only take you so far because you can win with talent, but it's not going to take you all the way because then all that talent is just going to go straight downhill. I mean, we started
Yeah.
looking at the Golden State Warriors and the Lakers, a team full of talent, teams full of talent, and they're barely struggling to even make a playoffs because Steph Curry and or Klay Thompson and Draymond, they can only do so much. They can't, and Chris Paul too. They can only do so much, and at the same time, and here they are. They're 20 and 25 or whatever, and they can't even make a playoff because they have all the talent in the world. But could really is Steve Kerr really that guy? Like I never really thought he was the guy
No.
because you had Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant, guys where you just had to sit back and just enjoy the show. But JB, I think JB is doing what we've always wanted him to do. Because again, we looked on Twitter and everywhere else, and everyone wanted him gone after like the beginning portion of the season. Everyone's like, "Yeah, get this guy out of here. He's a fraud. He doesn't know what he's doing." And here we are. We just came off fresh off of an 8 game win streak, lost one on a back to back against Milwaukee, won the next game against Milwaukee, and we started up another 4 game win streak. A chance to make it 5 tomorrow, which you should because San Antonio is nothing. They've only won 10 games. They finally just had a double digit win mark. So, and it's not like you have that difficult of a schedule going forward. I mean, after that, again, you have Sacramento, which is probably the best competition you're going to face going to the All Star break because then you
Yeah.
got Washington, Brooklyn, Toronto, again, maybe an Embiidless Philadelphia and Chicago. Like, that's not that tough of a schedule if you really think about it and look at it. And those are all games you've won early on this season. You've won those games, even when JB was quote unquote trash, as we talked about. um, he still won those games, and so you still have a winnable schedule ahead of you, and you could probably go on another 8 game win streak before the All Star break, if not maybe even more.
Yeah.
And I think Cavs fans are really looking forward to that. And the final point that you mentioned was, the scoring with it's not just Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland doing all the scoring. Because looking at the list here, a couple weeks ago, Sam Merrill led the team with 26 points. Niang, like a few days before that, with 33. Allen, a few days before that, with 29. Struess with 25. The couple nights before that one, Levert with 31. Levert with 29. Wade with 20. Struess with 26. Merrill with almost 30. Garland before he went injured had 36 before he left with injury.
Yeah.
Like all these guys, it's not just Donovan Mitchell leading the scoring. You have bench guys in Levert, Niang, and Sam Merrill who dropped 30 themselves and just random nights. And that's because, again, you took Struess from Miami. You took Niang from Philly. You brought Sam Merrill in he's a rookie, and he popped off in the G League last year with the Cleveland Charge. I
Hmm.
think he was like named like one of the best players in the G League last season. And again, you found your next Kyle Korver and Sam Merrill, who can just light up a three at any moment. Niang and Strus are pure shooters who you stole from teams that needed pure shooters, and you just stripped them away from Miami. And look at Miami; they're struggling hard. And Philly really don't have a main shooter. You took Niang from them, who was their main shooter. I mean, you've taken these guys, you just threw them on the bench and said, "Listen, I need you guys to be bench scorers." And I mean, well, Strus is your starter, but even Levert, you took Levert from Indiana and you said we need bench scoring, and now you have guys on the bench who are dropping 20 a night
Yeah.
off the bench. Meanwhile, Garland and Mitchell are dropping 25, 30 just normally on a normal night. And you have Allen in the mix who's dropping 15 to 20 while grabbing 15 rebounds.
Yeah.
And I mean, Dean Wade, yeah, he's not effectively offensive, neither is Okoro, but they're great defensive pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, Dean Wade had, I think it was like 2 steals and 2 blocks last night. So yeah, he's not dropping buckets, but hell, he's a great defender.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he's pretty much a larger version of Delhi for us.
yeah, he's a
Like
bigger, really,
he
he
plays that
is.
role.
Yeah, he's a larger version of Delhi. He'll give you that hard-working defense. Not much of a scorer, but he'll give you that hard-working defense.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, he could shoot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's nice to see, and to go back on a point that you made a little bit ago, just about these teams like Golden State and and even the Lakers, the Clippers that have
Hmm.
struggled. I think this league is finally starting to change into the point where the younger Bucks are really starting to take over. I mean, you
Super
guys
teams are
have
dying.
yeah, super teams are dying, but really the older super teams are dying. I mean, these
Yeah.
guys are getting older, let's face it. Like it's a reality. LeBron is getting gray, man. Like LeBron looks stressed. I don't know why he still wants to play for them at this point. Like I really don't know why he doesn't want to get traded. I feel like he should try to just to salvage something of the rest of his career because I mean, he could have just left after
Yeah.
he got that scoring title because that was all he was really chasing at that point. But now it's just legacy at this point. For all we know, he wants to go after 40,000 points, and if that's true, whatever. But I mean,
If he wants to win a championship, he needs to go elsewhere
and then
because the Lakers are not a
especially
championship team.
no, and especially when I mean, he still legitimately has the capability of dropping a 30-point triple double at almost 40 years old. I mean, the dude is the Tom Brady of the NBA, and I mean, I can see LeBron playing for 2 more years if he genuinely wanted to, he will. And as long as he's able to play with Bronny one time, or at least play against him one time, after that, I think he'll be cool.
I think
But
I did hear rumors that there's a chance that he would want to come back to the Cavs within the next year or two.
yeah, I mean, I could see that. I mean, I could absolutely see him at least doing like what D Wade did with Miami, where
One more
he
run with
went
the
back one
Cavs.
more run. Like I can see that. I can really see that.
And he'd probably take a
Regardless of
cheaper
who's
deal
there.
for it too.
Yeah, I think he would too. Because I mean, who cares at that point? Like you don't need money at this point. If you're
Or
really gonna
hell,
put a team in cap hell for 1 year, you're just being an asshole, really.
well, or what a lot of people I've heard a lot of people say what they should do is give him ownership rights. I mean,
Yeah.
the health of Dan Gilbert's deteriorating. I mean, I doubt he can run a team for much longer.
I mean,
And
I low key think after the championship, I think LeBron has in writing somewhere that he
he
will
gets
eventually own the Cavs. And now, do I know this for 100% sure? No, like I don't have any proof of
but
that. But I think
I
after
think
that title,
yeah,
why
I
not?
think I think if you sign him to a small contract, but just give him ownership rights, like I'm sure he'll be happy to be like, yeah, I'll take that. Like, just give me a few mil, give me a few mil for a season, and just after the season, I'll be part-time owner or full-on owner of the Cavs.
Yeah, and I mean at that point, I mean it's gonna happen within the next 10 years. I mean,
Oh,
you
absolutely.
know, you know, like. if Kobe was still around, I think Kobe would really be like trying to
On the
get
Lakers.
yeah, like at least trying to get like minority
Yeah.
like ownership of it, just to help, because of the current state of that team right now.
Well, Jordan has Charlotte.
Yeah, well, I mean, he did. I don't know if he still
What he
does or
did,
not. I think
yeah.
he got out of it.
But
But like, I
yeah,
mean,
he had
again,
it. Bird had, I think it was Indiana.
Indiana, he might still have it.
I think
I'm
he
not
still might
100%
have it.
sure.
Yeah, I don't know if he did away with that, but I
But
mean,
either
there's a lot of
way,
legends who have teams. Jordan
yeah,
had Charlotte, Bird had Indiana. I mean, Kobe probably would have wanted L.A. LeBron could take the
Magic.
cast.
I mean,
Magic took
Magic would have had the
L.A.
Lakers
Yeah,
if he would have been not stupid as a GM. But yeah, like,
yeah,
but going back to my point though, it's just
yeah.
like these older guys are they're starting to finally get to that point where the younger generation is finally starting to come on. I mean, obviously Luca. I mean, dude, he's top dog. If Luca doesn't win MVP this year, I don't know who really deserves it. Um, you
Maybe
know,
Jokic again.
I mean, yeah, maybe, but like, dude, Luca is literally an absolute freak. I mean, the dude is a absolute freak of a basketball player, and the fact that he looks the way he looks and plays the way that he plays,
hmm
it's astounding that that kid can drop a 70-point game with ease, and even doing it with a triple double. I mean, it's stuff like that that's just it makes that kid so much better. But then you have like the Anthony Edwards, uh, those guys are. I mean, he is a freaking athletic machine for Minnesota. I mean,
Yeah.
he is literally a scary human being to watch play, and you're just starting to get these guys now that are starting to really come on for some of
hmm
these teams and starting to make their own names. And it's fun, like it's starting to make the league more fun to watch now because it's not all super teams anymore. It's
hmm
just young guys that have found a rhythm, have found a group, and it's like, it's like before the original Oklahoma City team, when they had KD and Russ and Harden on that team, like that was that start of like those type of teams, and you just
hmm
don't really get to see those anymore. And um, you know, teams like the Cavs right now are starting to have their success the way they are because you don't need to make a super team to really like truly belong in this league and really play well in this league. You just have to be competent. You have to have a good player, but you also have to have good leadership. And if you don't have good leadership, you have too many egos, it just goes downhill. And I mean, we know that better than anybody because we dealt with it
Yeah.
with the Cavs. I mean, when egos would fly and guys didn't want to play, I mean, it was so detrimental to that team. The fact that Ty Lue was able to keep control of that team for as long as he did was incredible.
Yeah.
Um, so, but it's just, dude, to go back to the Cavs, it's just fun to see them finally starting to get back to it. I really hope like my big thing for them is to do whatever you can now. Now that you have Garland and you have a Mobley back in, please for the love of God keep Sam Merrill in this lineup. Keep him in that 9 to 10 man rotation. JB, keep going to your bench. Use your bench. Do not play Garland and Donovan 40 minutes a game. They do not need to, especially right now. They just don't.
No.
Guys should not like our none of our starters should play any more than 35 to 36 minutes a game. Um, and don't get me wrong, that's a lot. But guys like Donovan and Garland can play 38 and be fine. But after they play above 38, that's when they're going to start getting tired. They're going to make bad choices. They're going to start turning the ball over. People are going to start going iso ball. Like, you got to keep yourself fresh. Use everybody on this bench, especially now that you've sort of made that your own identity. Why not use
Well,
a 9 to 10 man rotation every
it,
night?
and speak of the minutes too. Looking at last night, the players with the most minutes, number one is obviously Mitchell with 33, but then it goes Karis LeVert with 29 off the bench, and Max Strus also with 29. Then Dean Wade with 28,
Yeah.
and I mean Sam Merrill had 18. Garland had 24. Allen had 21. So, like you said, those guys are getting their rest. They're not playing 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Mitchell's playing 30 minutes. Garland's playing 25. And, now you're getting Merrill, who's who's jumped up from like 5 a game to now 20 a game,
Yeah.
and Struess is getting 30 a night, while and Levert's getting 30 a night, which those guys are going to help you.
Yeah.
Like we said that earlier, Karis Levert is dropping 20. He's averaging, I think, 18 points off the bench right now this season, which is incredible for a bench player who's dropping 18 points. And Merrill's dropping, I think it's like 12. So you're getting guys off the bench who are now averaging a full season of double digit buckets. Merrill, like you said, could drop 8 threes tomorrow night if you really wanted to. You got these guys. You don't, like you said, you don't need to play Mitchell you know, a full 48 game. You don't need to play these guys for full time. You just gotta get these guys enough rest to just do their thing.
Yeah.
And Mitchell is doing his thing while getting a good ton of rest. You're playing, and I think what you said fits perfectly. Just keep going to that bench. I think they play the bench. I think what we usually see is they play the main guys the first 2 quarters,
Yeah.
and then like the third quarter, it's mostly just the bench players the entire quarter,
Yeah.
which I kind of like that because they're getting a good run in, and you got scorers, Sam Merrill, Levert, those guys can score, Niang can score.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're losing, and guess what? Those guys are great defensively too.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're horrible defenders either. They're great defenders as well. So, and I think the Cavs did a great job of building a team like that where you have great scorers, but you also have great defensive pieces
Yeah.
who aren't afraid to defend, get fouls. You know, I mean, we have guys who've put themselves in foul trouble every night, but they still continue to play tough, good defense while dropping 30 a night, which
Yeah.
is what we need to keep doing. So I give JB a lot of credit for sticking with it, doing what he's been doing, and now you got Mobley and Garland back, like you said. Just keep using that bench, man. I think that bench is going to be the key to the rest of the year in the playoffs because not a lot of teams in this league are as deep as the Cavs are.
Yeah.
I really believe that the Cavs have probably. I think the Cavs have one of the deepest benches in the league.
Yeah, and that was arguably our biggest problem last year. We just
Yeah,
didn't have a bench. I mean, after Levert, we didn't really have anybody that could
Rubio towards
consistently.
ACL. Yeah,
Yeah, you didn't have like guys like Osman and stuff just couldn't step up. They couldn't score the basket
no,
like you wanted them to or needed to. Because Osman had the ability to drop 20 plus points in a game. He's done it before. I think the most he scored was like 29 for us one time.
yeah.
And it wasn't a like consistent thing. And again, if you didn't have a Levert playing, especially if Levert had to move over to the starting lineup there for a little bit, it made it to that point where it was like, okay, now you have a Coro that's going to come off the bench, and the Coro is going to give you 10 points maybe on an average night.
He'll
If
give you a good
that
defensive performance, but he won't score.
right. And it just made more sense for them to go with the Coro. But now you have a guy like Struess who's also 6'8", but also not only can he score, but he can also defend as well. So you have Struess and a Coro in the starting lineup, which means now you can let Levert come in, be a ball handler, sort of rotate in with Donovan and Garland, and keep that game flowing. um, it's proven to be much better, and
Mm-hmm.
clearly the moves that we made this last off season really managed us and just really made everything better. Because even Niang can also defend, but he's a spot up shooter as well. And when you need to give guys minutes, those guys can just keep the space clear. They really spread the floor well, and that was another thing that we needed that we just didn't have last year was spot up shooters. And guys like Sam Merrill, like having that Kyle Korver esque type of shooter where they can just knock anything down. It's beautiful, and it makes things a lot easier on guys like Garland and guys like Donovan who really want to try to attack the basket, or even Levert who really like to attack the basket and really try to make plays inside the paint. Um, it really opens things up for them, because then now defenders, instead of just blocking the inside and saying, hey, we're just going to play a stacked zone within the
Mm-hmm.
paint and just shut it down and force you guys to make those threes. It's like, okay, now we actually have to defend the threes because they're making them. So then it also creates more for those guys. It again, it should be common sense for the average viewer or just people that at least understand basketball. to a certain degree. But fuck, freaking last year, man, it was just that was our biggest flaw. What was we weren't physical, and we didn't have spot up shooting, and we didn't have bench scoring, and now we have all three of those mixed with what we already know what we can do well. As long as they don't stray away from that,
Mhm.
and not like get into this weird habit of going back to iso ball, and doing those little things that they would do when the game would be close and somebody's trying to play hero ball. Just like don't fall into that. Stay within the team, stay within the system, and this team will be outstanding throughout the rest of this year and even into the playoffs. So now it's just keeping guys healthy, keep everybody's minutes around that 30 to 35 range for the starters, and let this bench help you. Let them get the reps so that way they are fully prepared for when it comes down to playoff time. When it comes down to you need guys to make big shots and big moments, they're going to be ready for it. Instead of getting thrown to the wolves because somebody got into foul trouble, which was another point that I was going to make with minutes. When guys like Jared Allen and stuff, when they have to play 38 to 40 minutes a game, that's when they start getting into foul trouble. Like that's when
Yeah.
they start getting tired. They start hugging guys and start just making those dumb little ticky tack fouls that are gonna get called in this league because that's how it is. And then when it comes down to playoff time, sometimes those get called and sometimes you just get bullied. And when you're getting bullied for 38 minutes, I mean, yeah, you're gonna wear down very quickly. Um, by the fourth quarter, you are going to be gassed and you're not going to be able to be nearly as physical as the other team. And that's just what the Knicks brought. So I really almost hope that we get another chance at them in the first round again, just to say screw it,
Yeah.
like run it back. But yeah, it's just nice to see that the team is starting to finally flow and they're just finally starting to find their groove. And JB is trusting in this bench to just continue to trust the bench, and I
Mhm.
think we'll do just fine. Um, and which also wants to bring me back to this point real fast before we move over to some football talk, because we are going to end on that. Considering how everything's going right now, do you think the Cavs really need to be in the market for any trades this year?
No, I
I
think
don't
where we
either.
are,
Yeah,
I think where
I
we
don't
are is
think so either.
perfectly fine. I
Yeah,
mean, if you're winning 12 of 13 games, I don't think you need anybody else right now. Why would you want to disrupt anything either? The
yeah,
way that things are flowing, why disrupt anything with a new person who's going to come in not know what the hell is going on and try and throw them in the mix? And next thing you know, Merrill's missing out on minutes, and Levert's missing out on minutes, and Niang's missing out on minutes. Like we don't need that.
yeah,
While you have what you have, do with what you have. Guys are going to be just fine. You still have Mobley, who again is coming in and out of games because you still need him to be fully fit. But I wouldn't doubt if he played tomorrow and took the next day off and play the next day and take the next day.
yeah,
Because you have until the All Star break. Why rush him back in, ease him back in? I'm surprised they didn't do the same thing with Garland.
yeah,
Kind of slowly ease him back in and just let him take it easy up until the All Star break, and then let him come back full swing in the second half of the season.
yeah.
So I don't think we need anybody else. And I mean, I the only thing I noticed were the Lakers trying to get Donovan Mitchell, and it's like, listen, if you want him, you're gonna have to give us a full slate of picks and LeBron and everybody. You're gonna have to give us a whole shit ton for him. Like you're not
Yeah.
gonna give him for fucking Austin Reeves and a couple of second rounder,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they want him to, but but no, I think we stay put. I think we do with what we have, and because what you have is perfectly fine. I mean,
you're one of the
you're
best teams in the league right now for a
you're
reason. Keep
yeah,
it going.
yeah, you're winning basketball games. Why ruin it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I totally agree. But I mean, I was definitely curious because I mean, honestly, I really haven't heard the Cavs be involved in any sort of
No.
trade rumors at all. It's all been these teams like both the Los Angeles teams, Phoenix, like those
Mhm.
those teams that are clearly going to start to make some changes. Those are the teams that I'm hearing more about. So
Yeah.
it's good that and listen, I'm sure Altman is going to be looking and hearing things, but I don't think he's just gonna pull the trigger on anything specific unless it's something like that can genuinely like improve the team automatically. But other than that, like there's really no real reason to get rid of
Oh,
anybody right now.
the only thing I can think of is probably every once in a while implement Amani Bates a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that, and I guess if you wanted to make a trade for somebody, it would be sort of to clear up roster room for him to move up if you really wanted that.
I mean,
But
I would just
even if so,
at that point you would just dump Tristan Thompson because he's kind of
yeah,
useless at this point now. Like,
yeah,
yeah, it was a good reunion, but now he's suspended for the vast
25
majority
games, yeah,
for pretty much the rest of the year.
yeah.
So there's no point in keeping him around.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
I mean, it just depends on how they want to do things. But honestly, I'm cool at this point. If Amani Bates just continues to ball out and Canton, let him continue to just produce and say, hey, listen, buddy, we have a plan for you. We just want to give you time to develop, get a lot of minutes in Canton, and just stay in shape and just keep your head down, and you'll be just fine. So I don't see anything going on with that. So I do think the Cavs stay put as well, and I think that's the right move. But okay, we are going to go ahead and switch over a little bit to some football talk because this is still we started this thing off with the Browns always, and usually we always did for about this long until we're like, oh yeah, that's right, the Cavs are starting to play well, or hey, Ohio State's finally starting to do something. Now we got the Cavs playing well, and so now we're gonna talk a little bit about what the Browns have been doing right now. They just hired their new OC sometime last week, Ken Dorsey, who was actually a former football player for us.
yep.
Former Miami Hurricane that lost to Ohio State back in the day in that national championship to Jim Tressel. So he's got some history here with Ohio teams. But it's a very interesting move. I think it's been a sort of mixed feeling move at the moment. And there's talk about Stefanski potentially gives up his play calling to Ken Dorsey, which I don't know if that's necessarily confirmed yet. Just curious on your thoughts about the move and what you really expect from this move.
I mean, I actually probably one of the people who just didn't mind it because I don't think Ken Dorsey's awful. You know, would I give it the play calling to him? Probably not. I'd rather trust Kevin Stefanski more with the play calls still.
Yeah.
I think you bring in Ken Dorsey because of what Dorsey did with Josh Allen. Because Ken Dorsey may not be great at play calls, but he's great at working with individual players, obviously like quarterbacks. Because I think he's a big reason why Josh Allen, before Dorsey was fired, was the reason why Josh Allen was starting to get back to his ways.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, well, Josh Allen threw so many picks. And it's like, but that's not Ken Dorsey's fault. Ken Dorsey's not telling Josh Allen to throw into triple coverage 50 yards downfield to Stephon Diggs because Stephon Diggs is mad that he's not getting the ball 40 times a game. That's not the fault of Ken Dorsey. Ken Dorsey is the reason why Allen was in MVP talks for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That Dorsey was the reason for that.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for Ken Dorsey, I doubt Josh Allen would be in those conversations. So
Yeah.
I think Dorsey is a great football mind. I think, yeah, he didn't have a great career himself, but that doesn't mean that he can't come in here and help Deshaun Watson and try and get Deshaun Watson back to his old ways of being that elite level quarterback and being a top 5 quarterback like he was. So it's not, I like it not necessarily for the play calling standpoint, but for more of the development of Deshaun Watson standpoint. Because I
Yeah.
think he could definitely develop Watson. And he worked with a player, Josh Allen, who's exactly like Deshaun Watson, same exact play style.
Yeah, and so and we've been hearing a little bit even from like Watson when he was on his
Yeah.
podcast recently, where they were saying that they definitely want to try to pass the ball, a little bit more. And I
Yeah.
just pulled up some stats that Josh Allen had this year with Ken Dorsey in comparison to Joe Brady. So the first 9 games with Dorsey this year, he was 231 out of 324 for a 71% completion rating. He passed for
Yeah.
a little over 2,400 passing yards, averaged almost 270 a game, 18 passing touchdowns, and only 6 rushing. So with Joe Brady, his completion percentage went down. He still passed for just a little over 2,000 yards, but he ran the ball a lot more. He had obviously 11 rushing touchdowns and another 14 passing. So I mean, he's still Josh Allen, but
Yeah.
they were much more efficient in the passing game. So when people want to put blame on Ken Dorsey as to why they struggled, I don't think that was it. And that's why, even though I don't necessarily want Kevin Stefanski to give up play calling this year, I don't think it's necessarily a bad move because I think he wants just better oversight over the entire team in general and the overall game plan instead of just honing in a little more on the offensive side of the ball. Um, I think he just wants more oversight, and I don't have a problem with that at all. And if he can trust Ken Dorsey with it, I say go for it.
Hmm.
Or even just have it be like how Andy Reid was with Bieniemy, where they were both kind of calling plays, like they were both
Yeah.
in the in the offensive scheme. I just think it was time to get rid of Alex Van Pelt. I just think just philosophy. Uh, with uh, Watson and him. It was good, but it needed to change. Like sometimes that shit just happens, and I've
Hmm.
said that a few times about the league. But like you can't get mad when guys like Stump, or even Bill Callahan now is gone. Like it's gonna stink, but also it's probably not gonna be as big of a deal as you may think it is. Because
And
at
sometimes it's
the
for the
end of the day,
best.
right? Sometimes guys just need fresh faces and just a fresh set of ideologies and things of nature.
Hmm.
And I think that's just what it came down to, and it's okay. I don't think it's the end of the world. Um, and so I'm excited to see what Ken Dorsey can do with Watson, especially if we're gonna be more pass heavy. Do I think we're gonna get rid of the run game? No, especially if Chubb is gonna be back, which anybody that thinks that Chubb won't come back to Cleveland is crazy. I think Andrew Berry is definitely willing to still pay him plenty of money,
Hmm.
especially after what you saw out of Jerome Ford, where it's like, okay, he's a good running back, but he's no Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
He doesn't get an extra 3 to 4 yards per carry after contact like Chubb. He doesn't hit holes like Chubb. Um, I think with Stump's philosophy and even with Bill Callahan's philosophy and the way that the running game worked, it fit Chubb because Chubb is he's a much more patient runner. Like he's able to kind of sit back a little bit, find the hole, and then burst through it. Where it was like that's how like Le'Veon Bell was, but Le'Veon Bell was
Yeah.
shiftier. Where Chubb is a little more like hill, boom, and then you saw guys like Hunt where they would just hit the hole as soon as they saw it. Like they didn't even try to wait. And I think Ford was that same way, and I think they tried to force him to be a little bit more of hey, you know, let the guards and guys pull and do their things and then hit the hole. So I think that's also another philosophy that they want to change about the run game
Yeah.
itself. Um, I think they want to take away a little bit more of like scripted running for Watson and let him sort of free range and sort of make plays on his own just out of the blue because that's what he does best. That's
Hmm.
how guys like Lamar can really start to affect the game is when you say, "Hey, if you see it, go for it. If you can make a pass, go for it. Whatever you got to do to keep the sticks moving, keep it going." And I think if you can do that, Watson is clearly a better thrower than people I think give him credit for. Just because he has looked a little rusty, he hasn't been able to put up those big games. The dude can still throw the ball, and we saw a lot of glimpses of that this year before he got hurt. The dude can
Hmm.
still throw the rock, and he still can throw it very, very efficiently, smoothly. He can hit guys in stride. He can throw the deep ball. He can, he just makes plays. And I think Ken Dorsey can do some really cool things with him. So if he's the one that's going to end up calling plays, I'm cool with it. As
Yeah.
long as Kevin Stefanski can still have a say in that, that's totally fine.
Hmm.
Because I don't think it's not that Kevin Stefanski doesn't trust that he can't play, call plays. I think he again just wants a different perspective on offense because we've been running sort of the same philosophies for years now. This past year was the first time we ever sort of made a change, and then once Flacco came in, he sort of went back to his roots, and it worked because that was his play style anyway. So I think he realized that after this Joe Flacco run, and he's like, you know what, maybe I do need to have a change, and that's okay. Like that's what good coaches are willing to do. That's what good coaches do. Is
Mhm.
they recognize that, hey, the things that I have been doing, they need to change for the betterment of the team overall. It's not always a bad thing. So we'll see how it goes. But in the end, I don't think it's the most detrimental thing. I think losing Bill Callahan is gonna suck, but I guarantee we're
Yeah,
gonna find somebody that is gonna be a little younger and is gonna be just as
efficient.
compatible with this team. Because honestly, let's face it, the offensive line for the last two years is sort of gone downhill. Like we really haven't been as efficient as we were when Bill Callahan first got here. So I'm also okay with that. I feel the same way as I do about Stump. It's kind of the same thing for me. It is what it is. So that's how I feel about this. The whole thing about the staff getting changed up.
No, I'm with you. I mean, yeah, losing Bill Callahan sucks. You lose one of the greatest offensive line coaches in the league. But again, I think that we're at a point where we need fresher ideas. We've
Yeah,
had AVP for 4 years. We've had these guys for 4 years in a sense, really. I think we've had Stump once we drafted Nick Chubb in 2018. So I think we've had Stump for the last 7 years,
yeah,
6, 7 years. You've had AVP for the last four. You've had Bill for the last, I think it was like 4 or 5 years. You know, it's time for some fresher ideas. And, like we talked about, Stump Mitchell didn't make Nick Chubb Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb did that himself. Stump was just kind of there, you know. So it's not like we're gonna lose anything in Nick Chubb because Stump Mitchell's gone.
yeah,
Um, AVP, he had some great ideas. But again, it may have not. It may fit players like your old head players like Aaron Rodgers, your Drew Breeses.
yeah,
Your typical pocket passing quarterbacks, but not too much to Deshaun Watson's benefit because he's not a pocket passing quarterback. Um, and then you lose Bill Callahan again. Like you said, the O line hasn't looked spectacular for the last, I would say, 2 years,
yeah,
and there's been a lot of injuries in the last 2 years on your offensive line. So it's time for maybe a fresher face, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's not like you're getting rid of Jim Schwartz. It's not like you're getting rid of Stefanski. It's not like you're getting rid of the main guys that you need. You're getting rid of the kind of like the background characters.
yeah,
And sometimes you need to do that and you need fresher faces. So, I mean, who's to say that Callie Brownson won't be gone in the next year or two because we might need a fresher wide receivers coach. Not to say she hasn't done anything spectacular. I think she's done a fairly good job so far. But again, it's one of those ideologies where we might need a fresher face and a newer wide receivers coach. So it's not like I'm not discrediting anyone for their job and like all these guys have sucked. They've been crucial to our team. But football's a changing sport and you need new ideas every couple of years.
yeah. You really do.
So and again, these are ideas that could, especially like Ken Dorsey, these are ideas that could benefit Watson to his abilities. Look what we discussed. Dorsey did to Josh Allen, nearly 2,500 passing yards, a shitload of passing touchdowns, and then the reverse when Joe Brady hit. A lot of rushing, not a lot of passing. So I think Ken Dorsey could easily fix up Deshaun Watson and get him back to the old ways. And like you said, Deshaun might have more free reign to kind of just run the offense how he wants once the play is called. Like,
Right.
hey, if you see the pass, make the pass. If the pass is immediately gone, go. Just take off.
Yeah.
Get as many yards as you can get. So, and you have your options too. You have Njoku as a dump off screen anytime you need it because he's a great guy for catching after yards and stuff. So it's not like he doesn't have options in case the play fails. So again, I don't mind the hire of Ken Dorsey. I'm one of the people who actually don't mind it. I know a lot of people are pissed off about it. Um, but to one's own, people don't look deep into it like we do. Um, And that's, again, that's to them. But soon enough, I think we're gonna get a new offensive lines coach. Everyone's gonna hate it.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna be like, "This guy sucks." We don't. It's because you don't know nothing about him. Maybe do some research on him and what he's done for other offensive lines or other teams before you make a criticism,
Yeah.
and we'll go from there. We'll see who we get, and like you said, it could just be a younger, fresher face who's been an O line coach for the last couple years somewhere else. Maybe he's done a great job and can do the same for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. I mean, you never know. And
Yeah.
but that's the thing about this fan base too is I don't think you can make everybody happy. Like anything
No.
you do, there's always going to be somebody bitching about it and saying like, oh, uh, there's somebody better out there or whatever. This guy sucks, whatever. And most of the time, those people that make those decisions or say those things, they don't know the game. They don't actually understand the nitty gritty of this league and just how it runs. Like
Yeah.
it's so true when you said this league needs new ideas and ideologies every few years because things are changing. Teams are evolving. I mean, the average team is going to go through a coach every 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're going to have newer ideas and plays and things of that nature that are already going to be implemented. And a lot of the newer coaches that are starting to get hired this year, at least from a head coaching standpoint, only like three of them were um, uh, coaches that came from an offensive background. So a lot of them are
Mm.
coming from a defensive background, which I think is actually kind of cool
Yeah.
because for a while there, this was a very an offensive heavy league, especially with the Chiefs being what they were. Now it's starting to switch back to a defensive league, and I love that. It's going to make this league a lot more fun. So again, we'll see. We'll see what they or who they end up bringing in for the new O-line coach, or if they even just elevate somebody that's already on the team or already on the staff. It just depends on who Bill Callahan decides to bring with him,
Mm.
because I am assuming he's gonna have free reign to do that, which is totally fair. So it stinks, but I just don't think it's that big of a loss. I mean, he's great, but he's also a coach that could easily retire within the next year or two anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, having a newer face and a newer set of things and ways that line can move and just train, I think it's gonna help them. So, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it.
Yeah. Me
And
too.
you are not gonna see me complaining on Twitter about it.
Nope. Not
But
me
yeah,
either.
Andrew, you got anything else before we get off here?
Dude, another great episode.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a good one, and we're starting to finally get into the groove of things. I know we're
Mm.
gonna have a more consistent upload schedule here soon, and yeah, we are just gonna keep them rolling. Obviously, we talked a lot about the Cavs today, and I think we'll be doing that for a little while, especially with the Cavs, playing as well as they are, and then
We got
obviously
we
after
got
the
spring
Super
training
Bowl
coming
here,
soon.
yeah, spring training, and then it's gonna be another month or so, and then we're gonna really start to talk about drafts. Um, even though the Browns don't have a first round pick this year, at least for one more year, thankfully.
It's the
Um, you
last
know,
year.
there's still guys that we can draft. There's
Hmm.
still things that we can do to improve this team, and also you still got free agency as well, which I think Andrew Berry is going to be crazy, crazy this year. They've been patient over the last few years. After they got Watson, I think this year is when he starts really uh,
Splashing his gash a little bit,
yeah, I really really do because it sounds like he's willing to do that now.
especially on offensive linemen this year too.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see how that goes too. So I mean that's going to be something that will happen probably around March. I think is when the free agency thing begins.
I believe
Um,
so. Because
and
then you get the
then
draft in April.
yeah, so then yeah, a month after that it's your draft time, and then next thing you know you're in rookie mini camps, and then and then next thing you know you got mini camps for teams that are non mandatory, and then you got other mini camps, and then the next thing you know it's July, and then the next thing you know 2 days preseason. Oh my gosh, the season's already begun, so
Yeah.
it's gonna fly by. We're gonna have plenty to talk about. Once the Guardians start to come out. I think we're going to talk a lot about the Guardians this year because I actually think this that Guardians team is going to be fun to watch this year. They're young, they're talented,
What do
they
you
got a
think?
brand new GM.
I don't know if you saw over under 78.5 wins for the Guardians this season.
Over.
I
I'm
was
saying
betting
over
it.
already,
Yeah,
because
young
we
team.
could, we could have won more last year if Tito would have just stuck with certain guys,
Yeah,
to to play certain positions a little bit more, and he just chose not to. So again, having a fresh face like that, I mean, I think the Guardians are going to be over on that for sure,
it's
for
gonna be an
sure.
exciting season for sure. And
Me
again, I
too.
think training camp or excuse me, spring training starts on the 22nd. So
Yeah, yeah. So we're getting there.
we
So
got
we're almost
two,
there.
3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks spring training time. And we got baseball talk.
Yeah. So point is, we are gonna have plenty to
Oh
talk.
yeah,
It is, this is not gonna be just a Browns only podcast. I know it was, but we've said from the beginning that it's gonna be more Cleveland sports based. It's gonna be
mm.
Ohio State based, Cleveland or Columbus Crew based. Like we're gonna talk about a lot of things. So I'm excited to see what else is going to be brought up here. But Andrew, that is going to do it for us.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you everyone for another episode. We're almost at episode 20 next week for the Super Bowl, episode 20. So I'm really excited. Let's keep this thing going. But we will see you guys next week.